let's be real. Of course, this week we want to discuss very interesting things. And before we dig deep into our topics, it's a Mother's Day today. We want to shout out to all the beautiful women and ladies who gave birth to the men and women who are doing something positive in the world. Of course, I remember my great mother, Mama Hilda. Beautiful woman that was, from Wanga Kingdom.
Hey.
Oh, from Wanga Kingdom?
Yes.
I almost got married in Wanga. No, seriously.
Oh, it's for real?
Very seriously.
What happened? He ran away. What's going on?
I'm the one who got away.
But yes.
Anyway, Dr. C here, winemaker, business mogul, a real housewife, for real, and a mother of one. My little girl. Oh, today she brought me flowers, champagne. And Mother's Day is a day my husband always helps my daughter celebrate.
Oh.
Yes.
That's
So
nice.
it's a nice thing to celebrate mothers. And mothers really do a big job. But even though it has to be pointed out, there are lots of women who are not celebrating Mother's Day today because they have mother wounds.
What do you mean by mother wounds? Explain that for me before we proceed.
You know, women are always bringing up their daughters, and sometimes they inflict certain wounds to their emotional wounds to their daughters. There's a generation of women who don't get along with their mothers.
Oh.
Interesting.
There's a whole generation.
Interesting.
But I think today is a day to throw away those things.
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe one time we should discuss. You know,
Yeah.
It's very easy to gloss over things and just gloss over. But there are emotional wounds mothers actually give to their children, especially daughters. And those daughters just keep passing on
To the next
those
generation.
kind of things. Yes.
Okay.
Interesting. Maria.
Maria.
Wow, Mother's Day. Today is Mother's Day. A very special day indeed. I am Maria Nyambane Waweru. I am so happy to be here. Happy Mother's Day to the woman who loved me, took care of me, and just gave up her all to be my mom. Because sometimes we forget that motherhood is also a sacrifice. I'm also happy to be a mom of two very handsome boys. Yes, very handsome.
Hey.
Yes, I have to.
They have no wounds?
I am praying, I'm trusting God. I really trust God that I will never bring my emotional issues to my children because they're innocent. I would love them to be very good fathers in future, so I'm going to give them the best parenting I can. Happy Mother's Day to me. I'm so happy to be a mom on this day.
Hey, okay. And even I personally want to be the first to even wish you guys a happy Mother's Day to both of you. Yeah, I'm sure you are splendid moms in your way. And I want to wish all of you mothers out there, true African mothers who beat their sons into shape, true African mothers who tell you that they love you as they beat you. You know how much I love you. I appreciate you. You're the ones who have shaped us and kept us straight.
On the straight and narrow.
You know, I remember the last time I was beaten by my mom.
Yeah.
It was actually June 18th. I was in class 6. I remember. Yes. Since grade 6, I've not been beaten by my mom. Oh, Mary, I know you hear this. You know, my mom's name is Mary and I'm Maria.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she kept you straight.
So
Beat
much.
your kids, mom. Keep on. Yes, CEO, you're saying something?
You know, it's always very interesting to see how people remember how the last time they are beaten,
Yeah.
what their mother did to them. Do you remember what your fathers did to you?
They loved me.
Me, I remember.
For me, what happened was my mom, I became so stubborn. She became, you know, there's like a frustration when you reaches where the son now wants to overstep and you know the mom becomes frustrated. She could not even beat me, the stick broke. Yes, I'm that hard-headed. And then after that now, when the stick broke, she even threw a brush. Mwah! It knocked my head. I was so like, and that is how I received love, and I appreciate every single
But you couldn't be where you are without that.
Of course.
I'm actually a model citizen because of the parents.
I have her tattooed on my chest, so she's there permanently.
Yeah,
But
and,
yes.
and you know, there's always, I see a lot of mothers, there's always that private language you have with your children.
Yeah.
You give them that look.
Oh.
And they know.
They know.
They know. Or just that, but on the other hand, actually, something I just learned the other day, it's really important that you have a language that only you and your child know. yeah, and that just for security purposes. So if your child says this, no matter what else she says, you know, maybe if it's a sleepover, I need to drive over and just pick her up. Or I know she says, there's always that secret language mothers have with their children.
And mostly it's the eyes. Because me, I
Yes.
remember my mom's eyes, they were, that's it, you change your character.
Yes, you change. And you understand each other.
I
So
have
am,
that
am I
with
the
my
one who's
sons too.
starting? Sorry?
Yes.
I have that look with my sons too. There's a look I give them and then they know we are crossing the line. Yeah.
Interesting. Go ahead, Dr.
It's
C.
very. So today I want us to talk about wealth.
Money.
Money. You know,
Talk
I
about that
love
money.
money. And money loves me.
Hey,
Just
amen, amen. That's how every sermon begins.
you know, not just talking about money and sermons beginning, but you know, talking of sermons, in the beginning there was a word, and the word was with God, and the word was God.
Amen.
So that means we have to declare.
No, you have to.
You have to declare, because you see, God created the world, and He was the Word. So there's a lot of word in the creation. So that's why I'm declaring, money loves me. It comes to me.
Amen.
Okay.
Anyway, let's talk about wealth. So a Kenyan it's an international company called the Knight Frank. It's also international. So every year, they normally do a global wealth report. And Kenya is one of those countries. They do an African report, but also a global report about wealth and where people are going to invest, what is driving their investment. So about 2 weeks ago, they released the wealth report. And why is it important we talk about it? Because we were just, you know, we have to talk about wealth. There has to be abundance, okay? So let's not cheat each other. With the dollar behaving the way it's behaving with the taxes, we need to talk about health. So they talk about the high net worth individuals. These are individuals who have like $1 million plus, about 135, what's the dollar exchange about? 135, 140 million plus. That is the asset value, whether it's the property you live in or assets in terms of shares and all that. And there's the ultra net worth individuals. So they say in Kenya they're about like 8,000. I was about to say we are about. They're about like 7,000 and something. And then the ultra net worth individuals, these are individuals with $30 million plus.
In assets or?
In assets,
Okay.
$30 million plus in assets. Those are now, in Kenya now, you'd be talking about billionaires. And I think if you just go online, you'll see who the Kenyan billionaires are. Then they talk about prime property because that is their area. But what actually has intrigued me about this is what is going to be driving, what is driving people in investing and why. Okay, so I'm just going to mention a few. AI, artificial intelligence, is going to drive where people are going to be investing. So obviously, real estate is still a big part where people are investing. The ultra high net worth individuals, part of that. But AI, places like data centers are going to be big. Places like you know, now you need to process data. Everybody's making decisions based on data. But also collaborative office spaces are going to be big. The other thing, and I think this is really important right now, especially because of what we have just seen with El Nino, climate change is going to impact property values. And therefore, it means so that people are going to be thinking more about climate change. Think things like energy, renewable energy is going to be affecting that. But in Kenya today now, people I think are going to be checking where there is flooding. Are you going to invest next to a river, rivers, places like that? So we are the other thing that actually is a very big report. You can just Google and get it. But the other thing is that caught my eye is about how the rich, the wealthy people are actually looking at the prospects Are they positive or are they negative? They are 65% positive that the economy is going to grow. And this is actually in tandem with the World Bank report, which says that the economy will grow at 5.2%. I don't know whether they've revised that or not.
That's the Kenyan economy?
The Kenyan economy,
Okay.
that the rich people, the wealthy people are very positive. The positivity level is at 65%. So in spite of everything, in spite of what the dollar is where the dollar is not affecting. The other interesting thing, which I absolutely really love, is there's what they call the My Land is Kenya. And this is very positive because when they interviewed these ultra net worth individuals, where are they putting their money? And where would they like to put their money? And how many of them are seeking new passports? Imagine less than 5% are seeking new passports to go and invest. It means moving from Kenya, going to invest in other markets. This is so important because why is it important? Because if you're having your rich people taking the money out of the country, investing it in somewhere else, it means they don't care they are not vested in the country. So if you have the rich people vested in the country and investing their money here, it's a very good indicator because for other economies like Nigeria, can you imagine 95%? Everybody wants to get out. Yeah? The other thing, sorry, I know I'm about to. They looked at things like home ownership. A lot of them have first home and second homes, most of them in Kenya. So I think it's quite positive. These are very, very big report, but those are some of the things that have stood out for me. It means so that as a country, we can still redeem ourselves. I know this year may sound, in terms of the economy-wise, it may not be, a lot of people are looking and thinking, so what are you talking about? But it's just so positive that people are still investing here. Kenyans, we still feel vested in this country. We are still investing here, actually. We are not taking our money elsewhere. And if we are, people are taking money to South Africa, and the UK ranks like the third. To invest in a third. Now that would be a third or a fourth home.
Okay. Sia, what do you think so far about all this? Are you positive as she is?
I'm not.
Explain to me why. Talk to me. Talk to
Because
me.
I looked at that report. You see, the masses of people, she's talking about high net worth. And the high net worth people in Kenya are very few. For a country to move to where it has to move, it has to have sound policies. My worry is, do we have the sound policies to carry this thing we call investment in the way we want it? Secondly, you might invest, but you want the return on your investment. And one of the biggest problems we've seen is that the World Bank report, the same World Bank report, if the money we are borrowing too much, and the money the government is borrowing, if you look at our exports vis-a-vis the imports and the balance of trade, you see that the lower people, the high net worth people might be in that space what Knight Frank is addressing. But 90% of Kenyans who do not have us, you see, Dr. C is talking first home, which is not an asset, is a second home owner. The people, these are high net worth people. Them, the inflation does not matter to them. But what matters, where the rubber meets the road, is where we look at the number of young people who we are coming out of colleges without jobs, and the unemployment rate is going higher every day. Yeah. We have a problem there. You look at, the best thing is that people are taking climate change, and you talk about climate change. The banks are doing what we call green banking. I understand green banking and going green and all that. But we need, first of all, to put all these things into perspective so that we carry everyone along. You see, you can have a country, and that's what JM was saying, we were falling into, a country of 10 millionaires and a country of 10 million beggars. You understand? Okay. So now we have a country of high high net worth people who believe in this country. If you take the same question to the people who are on the ground, the lower people, they are trying to get their passports to run away every single day.
Do you have data?
Yes.
Like scientific data. I mean, at least Knight Frank brought the data. Do you have your data?
Dr. C, on a serious note, the best business, one of the best businesses to do right now is a travel agency. And that is a fact. Because a lot of people are willing to pay high dollar, high Kenyan shilling to even go get a passport and get a job anywhere out. And immediately when a Kenyan gets out, and that's a fact, that's the truth that's what's going on. Because that's why even a lot of travel agencies are popping up and actually making bank. Because also one of the biggest even corruption things that are even going on in that line there at Immigration House is how much do you have to pay someone so that your passport can actually come up in 2 weeks so you don't lose that job that you have applied for and you've gotten.
But you see, they are going to look for a job, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, our president has been very vocal on actually getting Kenyans jobs overseas. That is one thing.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Going to look for a job.
Yes.
But there's people who actually want to leave and go and never look back. Never actually come back. No, those people, by the way, there's another also happiness report that also even is done with the Kenyans. They may not, even though we may not rank as one of the happiest people, but Kenyans want to be in Kenya.
But okay, in her defense, there are Kenyans who, of course, go to the States, work there for a couple 10 or 20 years, but eventually your goal is to invest back and actually come back here. Because you know, indeed, your investment will, of course, be better off here. But that's because you're going to acquire resources that you're not able to get within your own country because of the policies that he was talking about, CEO was talking about.
Yes, we have to get
and that's the thing. People will always search for greener pastures if within their local community they're not able to get it. And I talk about even when you're even in rural Kenya now, you look at Nairobi. Now when you come to Nairobi and you're fighting, you look where? Let me go outside. Even if it's just Tanzania and it can get me a better job, I'm going to go. Because you have to always know that indeed, you cannot wait for government policies to change. You have to be the first one to act for your own basic needs. Because you're just down there looking for the basic needs. You're not busy trying to look for investment. You're looking for the next meal that you're going to eat on your plate. And now here you don't have job security. You don't even know if the company is going to be there. There's so much that's going on. Even
we are talking about patriotism. You know, it's everybody knows there are no jobs in Kenya. We need to create them or go out there, find them, and there's nothing wrong with that. These same people, if you ask them, if money was not a problem, where do you want to live? They want to live in Kenya. And these people will make money. Let me tell you, they are the same people who will send money home. And so therefore, this report doesn't talk about how people are leaving to go and find jobs. And I think Kenyans should leave and go and find jobs. There's no problem with that. Honestly, there's absolutely no problem.
I'm beginning to see your argument here. The wealth report is currently a rich people problem. Because
it is not a rich people problem. Prosperity is something that is important.
Yes, it's okay, but let me tell you something. The people down here are not actually, there are people who don't know there is something like a wealth report. They are asking themselves,
in fact,
where's the poverty report?
They are shocked.
Where's the poverty
report? Because we all fit in it. Right now, there are people who are feeling like the economy has crushed them.
My dear,
we are not getting
don't
food.
say
we are
things
not
like
even...
we all fit in it because you know what? Remember, I started with in the beginning there was a word, and the word was God. And don't create.
No, and that's the point.
Poverty.
And that's the point. A lot of people are struggling. You see these passport offices. Yeah. You see the systems failed last week.
Yeah.
Last
but
week.
They even gave.
Okay, I wasn't there. I have a passport. Simon, I have a passport, please.
But you know what? The thing about this report, it actually gives the numbers. So it's about anybody out there who is interested in wealth creation.
Should know
so it's not about a comparison between.
No, it's more like knowing how much you need
benchmarking
to
the
get
country.
there.
benchmarking the country. That's why there's a list of dollar billionaires. There's a list of Kenya, like Kenya shilling billionaires. Like, it's just important for us as a country to see where do we lie in terms of prosperity.
I get you.
It's not a they even give the numbers. It's grown to about 7,500 there. Last year it was only 4,000. So there are more dollar millionaires than
my point is this: if they could just make it this simple, Kenya is number this, but within our country,
data. You need data.
But here's the thing.
okay.
Let me say something real quickly. You mentioned something about patriotism. You know, most Kenyans are not patriotic.
No, they are patriotic.
No, let me be honest. Most Kenyans are not patriotic, and here's what I mean.
Do you agree with that?
And here's what I mean. And I want to be honest with you. Most Kenyans are not patriotic because we look at ourselves very insular as individuals. If we were to leave this country and for a certain payment, we can actually go
faster.
And
For payment.
and not even that. And yes, we can work for very fast. Thinking that we are so patriotic here, you on your own, hapo there, you'll be fighting for yourself. You'll be like, what? Me no language.
If you want to
Kenya, no,
confirm
I'm saying.
Kenyans are
And
not
that's a
patriotic, it's because of
Simon.
the health.
Patriotism and a whole
Simon,
different topic. We should talk about it.
I understand. You know, Dr. C is just telling us because the wealth report is, and it's actually the dollar millionaire there and people who are high net worth. But on the flip is that if you look at the last time, for example, if you want to understand a country, just board a matatu, go to River Road, to go to Nyamakima, and you'll see, and you look at the volumes of people, how they are trading, and they'll tell you that actually our businesses are not doing as well as they used to because of there's an issue somewhere, and it's about policy issue. And we need to encourage many people who are the majority. You know, this country is a country of traders.
Yes.
Our country is a country of people who either farm or trade because we do not have any other business we do which is bigger than that. But luckily enough, there are people who are in the blue chip companies, few of them who have companies we've set up. And the report actually, if you look at the people who the report has left out, are the politicians, and 90% of our Kenyan politicians who are high net worth have invested in Dubai, have invested in their land, their countries. You find someone in Dubai, they have offshore accounts. So I think we need to realize that it's a good report for people who still have that belief that this can be done in our country. But also we need to tell the government that if they can actually level the playing field, so that more people can get into the job markets, more people can get into the business market. Because what people lack is not the amount of money which Hustler Fund was giving, or the ideas. It's the regulations which have been put. For example, if you want to shoot a movie in Nairobi today, do you know how many licenses you have to pay? You have your camera, you have what? So these are, I'm saying the policies must be positive for us, for people to fit in, to create that wealth.
Right. Sometimes you can even have too many laws, right? Sometimes you can even have too many laws.
Welcome back. It has been hot inside here. The wealth report. We have the optimism of Dr. C.
Exactly.
We will invest in this land, Kenya. But Maria, tell us about schools.
Okay, so today is Mother's Day, and I know every mom right now is packing a bag for tomorrow to go to school. But unfortunately, not all mothers are doing that. We just celebrated a holiday this Friday to remember the victims of the floods. Now, the repercussions of the floods are still there because there are some schools that are still closed. And I understand that there are parents out here who have had their kids even do online learning during this period. That's okay. But now there are kids whose schools are not yet sorted out because they still flood in your school. Some schools are still closed. Some of these schools actually are the ones hosting the people who are affected by the floods. It's a very sad moment for this country. And Dr. C, what do you think about that?
I think we just have to deal with these things as we go. Schools need to open. It is what it is. All of us need to be aware that climate change is happening everywhere. We even talked about it in the wealth report. It's affecting everything. So we just must learn actually how to deal. We need to plant more trees, more vegetation. And yeah, It is what it is. Years of not planning, years of, I always say we have to be our brother's keeper, okay? Years of corruption, years of poor planning, years of, so everybody is just realizing we are in this, whatever hits the roof, together, and it's really stinking. So we just have to do what we have to do, move on as we mean to move on, because the children are growing. Again, you don't want to disenfranchise them. We must learn, I've always told people I'm a village girl. At one time, I remember sitting under a tree and learning under a tree. So if we have to learn under trees, we will, but we need to move on.
You know, one thing my mom, she's actually within the education sector. She mentioned that indeed a lot of schools are actually having an issue with now even the toilets and everything are actually sinking. And a lot of infrastructure is actually being messed up because of the flooding and all that is actually going on with the weather. Now,
Sorry, I wanted to say the children will learn how to use the bush. They just need to go to the school. How to use the bush, yes.
and hygiene comes in where?
Look, the education needs to go on. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but education really needs to go on. We need to find a way to help, but we don't want to have a whole generation disenfranchised. We have to get used to climate change. Roads the Rift Valley is breaking up, the road is blocked. Like, for how long will we keep the children home? The person who suffers is the child.
And also the parents who actually want their kids to actually go on to school. But CEO, before I say anything, go ahead, CEO, let me hear your thoughts quick.
So I think the government needs to really sit and analyze the status before reopening schools. We cannot take our schools, open schools, without a proper plan. And that's why I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, where are you sending these schools? Have you done a status report? Do you know how many schools the toilets have sunk?
Yeah.
All these schools, in primary schools, I know in this country, in the rural areas, people use boreholes. And do you know the health problems? Already the cholera outbreak, the impact of floods is hygiene. So you are telling me most of the schools, I looked at the school in Madare the other day, the books were submerged. All the books, the rations of food in those places, in the stores, are gone. So what am I saying? I'm saying the government needs to sit down in the ministry and analyze. One, we open schools in need and time structured way, where you say there are schools which do not have the problems of flooding can open. Then the government should employ the KDF and other agencies to construct new toilets, because that's a major threat. That's because of cholera outbreak. Every flooding comes with cholera outbreak. And number two, all the food which is being grown or people are consuming now, because the sewerage system in all those schools have mixed with the water. We have to really clean that thing first, because each and every school has a pit latrine. Yeah. Number three, they need to understand, do we have enough books? Because some of those things have been flooded. Look at Ahero Girls. People are meeting with the waters at the gate, and the 3 hit counties, Tana River for sure they can't open now. That it's submerged. Homa be the same. Kisumu schools, most of them are submerged. So if you open on Monday, for sure, if you're saying you're not going to defend, the other children will go, but these ones can't go. They'll go where? They'll go to a place where they can't go to the toilets, there's no food, and the cholera is out there.
You know, funny enough, we are disadvantaging other children, not because of what they lack, but because of natural calamities, and that is not right. Because most of these kids they are kids whose schools are okay. They can go, they can attend. But let's also understand that the same national exams that these ones will do that are going to school right now is the same ones that those other ones will do that do not even have the facility to go to. We may want to just assume that they can find maybe somewhere to learn, but some of these people don't even have homes. They were moved totally, like you don't know anything. Even if you are told, go study somewhere there, you look at your family and you're worried, how am I going to do that? So it was a very premature move. That is what I can say.
For me, I think it's necessary that the schools are opened. And here's what I mean. It's necessary that the schools are open because, one, the ones that can actually go to school, let them.
They were actually doing online learning.
Yes, it's okay, but even I'm saying the ones that can actually even go to school, let them go actually and engage and actually start the process. Don't hinder them from actually making steps forward. There's ways in which even teachers, they even now get their syllabus in order. Those are amazing, even they actually even go over the process of learning. That one is not necessarily the case because this will be in the span of 2 or 3 weeks, the floods are meant to subside. So this is a 2 or 3 weeks issue, more or less, because the floods will subside over the course of this month. That's what the weatherman has actually even stated. So eventually we do have to take steps forward in which, as she even mentioned that, yes, even if we are closed, we need to make now steps towards opening. And the first step is indeed declaring that indeed Monday is an opening day. You can go back to your school. Now it's upon the school to now communicate to the parents and also the students that indeed you guys are welcome back. This is what we have. If we're lacking this book, please, if you can get this book, whatever, you can now you start mitigating the situation, not sitting back and waiting for the government to do some action. How about calling? No. You're waiting for the government.
We are dealing with doctors.
What are you telling a mom who just lost a home to live in to buy a textbook?
Not about even the textbooks, even now.
I think now that when the schools reopen, we'll be able to get the data, the real data.
Yeah.
You know, the president recently went whatever and said, listen, we don't have those resources. And right now it's almost like a state of emergency because the schools need to open. This is the time now. If you go to a school and the school is flooded, then that GSU or whatever, they can be released to go and help. But if we just sit back, we are disenfranchising. This is the same generation that was affected because of Corona, because of I don't know what. There's going to be so many things happening. So why don't we just move? Let's just try and move forward and mitigate issues as we move.
Let me tell you guys, it is always very nice to speak and to talk. From the offices we talk and from the lofty positions we hold until you go to the ground. And I'm telling you because, of course, my son will go to school. I pay a private school and there is no problem. But my brother's kids are in somewhere. If they contract cholera, it's a problem. What we are saying, and that's why this government has been flip-flopping. We do not trust this government on the fact that they tell us tonight we are reopening school. In the midnight, they send another circular because they do not even follow their own data.
But this is the same government you're relying on for them to do the actual work of opening.
They are going to tell us today, they are saying, and I bet that they'll tell you they are opening on Monday.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure whether they won't cancel something in the middle of the night.
But how are they opening on Monday when these parents don't have homes? They don't have the uniform for this.
But sadly, you cannot make a decision for the majority for the few.
I know.
That's sadly
I think we already agreed.
Because
we already agreed.
Maybe my kids will go to school. I know they will go to school. But right now, I'm looking at those kids there who will not go to school.
So the whole of Kenya needs to come to a standstill.
They're supposed to compete at the same level with these same children.
I think there's a way in the marking scheme where they allocate some marks from, I don't know which children were eating sausage for breakfast. And the ones... There's a way they allocate marks. Marks are normally taken from people.
Okay,
so why don't you? How come we never spoke at that time?
Hey, but see, this topic.
We did speak. We actually spoke.
We did speak about it, and you know what? It's a good thing, CEO, what you've said. If there's someone listening, they've listened. That we know there's that part, but it is important people know that we need to move on. Climate change is here with us. It is not just about Kenya only. It's about the whole world. We saw even in China, we saw in Dubai, we saw this thing happening everywhere. So the question is, are we going to sit like this and just wait? Or shall we attempt?
their
let us attempt to move forward and we mitigate things as we move on. I'm completely here with the president.
Exactly, I agree with you. And even I want to take steps forward on, because this conversation can really give us a crazy mental health issues, but I want to discuss some other mental health issue that happened. Is indeed the one and only. There was a former reporter on local television station. His name was Kimani Mbogwa. He has been having a lot of bipolar disorder issue, and literally this has been an issue that's been ongoing. There was about even sometime last year he had a case. People saw it on social media that indeed he was blurting out and everything. And then recently he came out making a video about how there are people who owe him money, and then now he was saying, "Screw you! Like, give me my money! Give it now!" And he was talking like that, but that's me reducing my tone. But his eyes were red, and he was fuming with everything. And there's nobody who really owes him money. And even it goes even further to even threaten those people, saying, "I've just talked to Elon Musk, so he will come and whatever." You see now that mental health issue, he was really not having a lot of mental health issue about it. Clearly, you can see this guy's not mentally even stable. And even when it comes to even mental health, especially with even amongst even men, it's even sometimes even disregarded a lot of times. Even the guys even on social media will even say, who you? How come he broke everything and he didn't even break his own phone? How come what is the issue like with this guy? How come his own family has disregarded him? When it comes now, any man dealing with mental health issues, sometimes it can also feel like, bruh, if you get your own mental health issues, go sit yourself in that corner and get yourself together, because we just don't care. Or how do you guys feel when it comes to mental health issues and connecting it even with men, or even content creators overall, who even sometimes they have a perception that they put out there, but then behind the scenes you can clearly see this person's going through it and they're not willing to even ask for help, or even the help that those people, they cannot be helped. You help them, but then indeed they go back to the same scenario. But then let's talk about that.
I want to go fast on that issue, because I think so that when it comes to the issues of mental health, generally there is an understanding right now in Kenya that there's an awareness that mental health indeed is a problem and it's a disease like any other, and we have to be empathetic and help. That said, there's a couple of things I think the community needs to understand. That sometimes when somebody has a mental health issue, they don't seem to they're not aware. Most of the time they're not aware that they have a mental health issue. And even a lot of people, when they're feeling low and depressed, they think they're just in a bad mood for themselves. They may not be aware that they are actually depressed. Mm-hmm. And even when they're having those bipolar outbursts, they are not aware. So part of the biggest thing we need to do as a community is building the awareness. When is the right time to forcibly put these people, make sure they are seeing somebody, forcibly make sure they are actually being attended to? Because you can have a neighbor who has a mental health issue and will come and finish all of you. They're not even aware. Yeah. They're like murdering all of you. The other day, the report came out, the traffic report, and they said half the reason we're having so many accidents can be attributed to mental health. A lot of people are sick and they're actually behind the wheel. And that's why we're having a lot of these accidents. So there's so many things happening in the community because we as community, people who live in a society, we're not educated to pick out some of these things and ensure these people are actually getting help. So that is the first thing that we need to do. And that's all I will say.
CEO, what do you think, quickly?
I think mental health, actually this is a mental health month, the month of May, and it's the way we are set up in the country that people do not really understand what mental health is in many quarters, because many people have a lot of expectations. And then these things grow into stressors, they grow into depression, and all of a sudden, someone who was very normal, sober, enterprising, just loses it because there's too much. the demands on any single individual in this country from either friends and family. If you wake up in the morning, do you know how much M-Pesa people expect you to send, for example? You find there are so many and you get so depressed. So if you do not, and many people don't know how to say no. So that's why they end up into a trap. So you find that you need always to help, and you need to help, and you need to help, and this thing interferes with your mind. When you look back, you realize you've not done anything for yourself. And then the people you've been helping are the same people who are saying, and why couldn't you do anything for yourself? And this is where the problem is. So the many African or Kenyan setup, the people with money or people who are supporting families are few, and they're the most stressed because they need to give that money all the time or assistance. You find yourself you're in 10 matanga groups, for example. You are in 2 wedding groups. You have some people who are sick. You are in 3 or 4 more groups. And all these things are urgent, and they are priority. Then you look at your money, you have very little. So that's why many people are breaking down. It's the demands, financial demands, which have actually made this thing even worse to many people. Because you work so hard, but you don't see the results of your work. You toil so hard, but you cannot pinpoint and say, I've really succeeded. So you find many young people have been depressed, or they are suffering, or they are seeing as if their life is not moving the way they had planned, and all this. So this awareness Dr. C is talking about is okay. You need awareness, but also as a person who is in that space, you must know that you cannot carry the whole world's problems. You must know. You must know that this is what I can afford to protect yourself. This is the amount I can afford to give. This is the amount I can keep. Because many people do not understand that, and that's why they end up in that direction.
And I want to say something that I personally just learned the other day. I didn't even know I suffered from that.
Yeah.
It's called the survivor's syndrome.
Survivor's remorse.
Survivor's remorse.
Yes.
Where, and I tell you where a lot of Kenyans are, such that you have grown up with all these siblings.
Yeah.
And you are like in the same situation, and you feel that you came out of it, you created wealth. And so you are always going to try and pull those people. You feel they're in a hole, you're trying to pull them. You're trying to pull them. So a lot of people don't know they're suffering from that. It's called the survivors.
Remorse.
Survivor's remorse. A
Yeah.
lot of Kenyans are suffering from that. And we need to have that awareness that you can't save everyone.
You can't.
Maria?
2 things I'll say. First of all, according to the people I've seen out here who have done rehab, I feel like the follow-up of rehab in this country is wanting. Like, these people will get out of here, go for the treatment. Then when they come back, they find the same situation, same area, same everything. They bounce back. They backslide so fast. So you find that someone will say, I've been to rehab 5 times, 6 times. And that's why for alcoholics, we always say that it starts with you. But for these people, it doesn't start with them. Remember, it starts with first them changing their entire life. So bringing them back to the same situation makes them backslide. And I feel the rehab situations in this country should first know how to follow up and at least try to help them fully to full recovery, whereby, yes, you left us, but how have you been? How has the situation changed? I don't know if they don't dig deep on what caused that.
But I want to say something. Maria, let me say something on that, just so that we don't get a misconception. In terms of mental health, what are the causes? Most of it is genetic. Most of it is actually genetic, and that's why traditionally people would actually go and check. Do you have people who committed suicide? Because it's always found that if there was one person in the family who committed suicide, somebody else will. Because there's what we in the brain, what we call the neurotransmitters. And sometimes somebody is having, especially serotonin. So now this is scientific serotonin, which is responsible for controlling the mood, controlling, and the different sizes, the different amounts. Sometimes you have too much, and sometimes you have too little. Yeah,
gotcha.
so it's completely scientific, and there's medication, and there's a proper way to diagnose, and it's not for people, pedestrians like us, to diagnose. You have to go to a psychiatrist
To
who is
get-
very different from a psychologist. What psychiatrists do, they go to training. First degree is medicine. They are fully fledged doctors. And then now they go through to psychiatry training, just the study of the mind and behavior.
I
Okay?
get you.
And so there are different categories of behaviors that are grouped together. And if those are together, it's a very, very scientific and empirical way of approaching. It's very different from alcoholism and drug intake.
is
I get you.
Even though some psychiatry conditions can lead to drug or alcohol abuse. So people need to know also the differences. And once you get on medication, the thing people need to be aware of is that mental health is not urogi. This is the main problem. People think that we are merogwa. So they stop taking medicine, they start seeing waganga, they start seeing all those things, while they should actually be taking medication. The longer you stay without taking medication, the more intense your situation becomes.
And, but wait, the only pushback I'll give against is this. Medication is not the only solution, because medication just gives you a hormonal imbalancing of the hormones. The key thing is you can actually balance this even through activity. And activity means, you see serotonin, and I'm saying also even saying that even dopamine at the same time is a positive and negative, a nice balance in between. For example, a key thing, even I would speak about even men's mental health specifically, even as CEO mentioned, and I just want to even add on to Maria's point is this. One, when it comes to mental health, even specifically even as a guy, one key thing you must do is this. Always note that indeed, don't value, because even how you value yourself even gives you a perspective, even how you see yourself, even a perspective in how you feel about yourself, even a perspective in how you feel overall as a human being. And hence, even if your value as a man specifically, you feel like it is only by the utility that others see in you, you are vulnerable to other people's opinion of you. And hence, your value should be intrinsic, and now take the power and start doing things that will actually now take the power within. If you're taking meds, yes, you can if it's an extreme moment. But then you have to also know is a consistency of meds can also be a problem if it's over a long period of time. And what happens is, that's why even I advocate for, especially in men, is to now take physical exercise, even physical activity in the action of doing, in the action of accomplishing a task, because when you accomplish, you feel better about yourself, and hence it's not reliant on any external factor, not a drug, not any people's validation, is intrinsically on you. And hence even why even your mental health will be stable and even centered, because you're not reliant on anything, because you accept that indeed, I as Simon, I as Maria, I as Dr. C, I as CEO, I have indeed defined myself within this parameter, and I'm not reliant on any external validation or any external thing to actually affect my stability. That's why I say, even when it comes to even mental health, specifically even to guys, because for ladies it can be a different thing, is make sure that you do not define yourself by any external utility. Find a way that in which you are useful and you are validated by yourself, so that any external validation does not shake you. She says something about you, does not shake you to go overboard to try to prove her wrong. No. He says something about you, does not shake you to try to prove, or something is you're not receiving the payment that you thought because you had done so much work. No. You are validated by the accomplishments that you have made, and you're able to walk out there and be a prosperous individual for society. Because that's what we want. People who can actually be mentally stable to now make steps forward in society.
But also what has been a problem with many people is that the relationships are not, you see now people look for validation, people want to be seen, you want to be told something. And also people don't keep relationships a lot. If you find someone is in his own corner, he's undergoing a lot of pressures, but he cannot open up to anyone. He cannot talk to either, there's no family member he's talking to, and that remorse you're talking about, Dr. C, you're just finding that I need my brother, I have to get him out of this problem. So people must learn to protect themselves first.
Yeah.
But I want to add something. Sorry if I'm cutting anyone short. I need to make a clear water difference. There is a mental wellness. There's how we see ourselves. There's the validations and all that. And then there is actually the sickness that is equivalent to malaria, equivalent to diabetes. So there's that sickness that has to be diagnosed. Things
Yes,
like
there is.
bipolar, things like clinical depression. So I was just talking about the clinical one, and people need to differentiate.
Yes, that too.
And it's complete. How you see yourself, how you want to be validated is very different from when you have. There could be somebody who completely has no problem with how they are perceived, but they have bipolar. Bipolar is a disease that has to be diagnosed. It's not for us to look at people. This gentleman you're talking about, he's actually scientifically sick. Sickness that has to be diagnosed by the doctor. And those diseases that have been diagnosed by the doctor, not the psychologist, the doctor, there is prescribed medication. You cannot think yourself out of it. You cannot pray, pray yourself out of it. I don't want the pastors to come after me. But you see, that's why God has increased knowledge for us to find medication. You understand? So you cannot say you're praying out of yourself, on a rogwa yourself out of it. No, there is medication for it.
But you know,
so it is not the same as, I've woken up, I'm in a bad mood today. Or so and so did not say. On the other hand, that's why we need to prioritize seeing wellness experts. When you're seeing a psychologist, they'll reach a place where they'll say, now, I think you should go and see this doctor. Yeah. And that's how we should graduate.
Actually, what I know about bipolar is, it's actually, in some cases, it's lifelong. Like, when you stop your medication,
it's back.
It's back. That is what I know about bipolar. Another thing is, a lot of people do not know the psychiatrist and the psychologist. They are treating everything with psychologists. And that is because we are here preaching therapist. That is the word we are preaching out here. See a therapist. But what is the profession of this therapist? Because you have marital issue, see a therapist. You have depression, see a therapist. You've been... Actually, everything nowadays is to see a therapist. Because of that, someone may be going through something and they don't know who is the right person to see. So they'll go to a therapist. And some of these therapists are after money. So they're just there giving you sessions every week, but not helping you. So you find that if you had stress, it's graduating to depression, it's graduating and graduating and graduating because you have sessions every week. And most of the time, actually, their first trick is go to the gym, take a lot of water. Those two are the first trick in every problem from a therapist. And you could be having serious mental issue. So I feel like by the virtue that people don't have the knowledge of a psychologist or a psychiatrist, they're just doing therapist, maybe that's why these situations will graduate into something different.
That's true.
Anyway, but
before we proceed, even when it comes to even this issue, there's something, you have something you want to add on mental?
No.
Okay, there's something I wanted to ask even Dr. C. Something big has happened today. Some breaking news that indeed something that you are part of has actually even started. And you're wondering.
You're talking about the Real Houses of Nairobi.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the Real Houses of Nairobi, first of all, is a show from Showmax.
Yes.
If you have Go TV, DSTV, it's part of that group. So it's a show that brings together a group of women.
Yes.
In a particular city. All cities have a Real Housewives. And it's so amazing.
How was it for you?
For me, I really enjoyed being on the show. I went on the show to launch my brand. It's a very international platform. As we speak, season 1 is airing even in Europe, in America. It's a platform where you're seen all over the world. So for me, I built a brand called Samantha's Bridal, and I wanted to re-engineer it and reimagine it. So I launched a wine here, and I felt it gave me a bigger platform. Even though it's a show that makes you learn and unlearn some things. You think you know human behavior, you find that you actually don't know. Yeah?
What was one big thing, just one thing that is within, what side of you should people expect to see on this show?
The side of me like Fanya Fujo Wone. If you joke with me, I'll carry you personally to River. So yeah, episode 1 is already, by the way, launched. I'm a Muluya girl. If I say Nahoromola, I'll beat you.
Hey.
Nahurumula.
I mean it.
If you
But
know.
they should also expect to see the business mogul.
Okay then.
Yes.
You guys make sure you watch you watch her on Real Housewives Nairobi.
Yeah.
See, are you gonna watch?
I've always watched Dr. C. The first one, there are a couple of friends in there, Dr. C. I don't know whether Susan is there, Kaitani anymore. I don't know whether Vera Sidika, my
Vera
friend,
Sidika is there.
Yeah.
She's always been my friend for very many years. I have very many friends in the house. So.
Very interesting. Yes, he was friends with Vera. Did you know that?
I didn't know. Now I know.
Now you know.
So that's why you need to watch
Yeah.
to actually see. There's what is said there about her, but there's the real she. On the
Yeah.
show, she's my very good friend.
Interesting.
She's a good friend of mine too.
Even out of the show, cameras not rolling. So there's a lot of misconceptions people may have about people online.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why you just really need to watch to really discover what a wonderful human being she is.
No, she's
right.
wonderful, yeah.
Make sure we kept it real.
All the ladies are actually good human beings. We, with all our frailties. Yeah,
Is
when you
Lisa
watch, give her some
Christopherson there?
grace.
Is
Yes,
Lisa
she's
there?
there.
She's there.
She's not there as a cast member for this season. She decided not to do.
Okay.
But if you watch episode 1 that is already out,
She's
She's there.
as we speak, she's there. She came to my party.
Okay.
And I love Lisa.
All
Lisa
right.
is a good girl.
She's such a
And
good,
a good girl.
Yes, she is.
She might be older than you.
No, all women are girls.
It doesn't
Aye,
matter.
all
That
women
is
are girls.
ageism.
Yes.
It's
Even
called
mothers.
ageism.
Tread carefully.
It is called
Are you a girl?
ageism.
Tread carefully.
All women.
Treat them as
are
your
girls.
girls.
Hey, so all women are girls. All you ladies?
Yeah, we are little girls.
We just kept it real.
In fact, not
Say that
just
on Mother's
girls.
Day.
We are little girls.
How?
They're little
Really?
girls.
Yes.
So happy Mother's Day to all the little girls out there. And that's just us keeping it real. We shall see you guys next week.